Hello, everybody. I think we are, in fact, live. How the heck are you? Welcome to another episode of the Visto Show. It is Friday, Sunday. It is Friday, September. That's the word I was looking for. September the 29th. How the heck are you doing? It is a big day because we have yet another lot of news to talk about, right? Immigration Canada as a whole, has certainly, how do I say this? Given us lots to talk about, right? I don't really know how else to say it, right? Lots to talk about. Big day, as you can see on the agenda. Not a huge amount of items, but very, very important list of items, right? With lots to talk about. Anyways, Heidi says, hi, Josh. Hey, Heidi, thanks for tuning in. Mona says hello. Hey, Mona, how you doing? Mozan says, hi, Josh. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to drop a hello in the comments if you are watching live. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, then make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn because I do stream this live every 2 weeks. And what happens when you're live is it means you get to take part in the conversation, right? If you have any comments, questions, thoughts, all that kind of stuff, you can take part in the conversation as well. Mohammed says good morning. Hey, Mohammed, good morning to you as well. Priya says hello. Ola Wasei says hello. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Janie says hello as well. Madis says hello. Hi, everybody. Really appreciate it. Glad to have you here. Now, what we're going to do, if this is your first time tuning in live on the Visto Show, is I'm going to report on some news, right? We're going to go story by story. I'm going to shed some light on things like the express entry draws that just happened, the recent IRCC announcement with their AI, the Canada-India drama that's been going on, and I kind of like to cover them in two elements. Number one, take you through the facts, right? Show you the information, show you the stuff that I know, that maybe you know, or will know, or can know. And then share my opinions on what I think about it, right? What does it mean for Canada? What does it mean for aspiring immigrants? What does it mean for immigration professionals, right? Immigration lawyers, immigration consultants, and talk about it. Of course, if you're watching this live, please feel free to tune in. Kanye says hello. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any thoughts, comments as I'm going through these topics, please feel free to ask questions or throw your comments, your thoughts on the topic in the chat. Although I refrain from immigration advice on these streams, right? So if you have specific questions about your immigration case, then send me a separate message and we will handle that some other way. All right, so with all the business admin stuff out of the way, let's jump in. Mona says, I have a question about the open work permit visa startup. Yeah, so Mona, that would be something to send me a message about. I'm not using this show to kind of answer immigration questions. That would be something I'd probably connect you with a professional for help with. So let's jump in, though. If you are interested in learning about the recent news and updates and stuff like that, we're going to start with Express Entry. And boy, oh boy, did we have a 2 weeks in Express Entry, right? Because the last Visto show I did 2 weeks ago, the topic around Express Entry was where has Express Entry gone, right? We hadn't seen a draw in, at that point, 2 weeks. And now it's gotten to a point where, let me share my screen here. So you can see here in August 15th, IRCC did a draw. And then there was no draw until September 19th. So about 34 days-ish with no draw and no information about why there was no draw, right? Which is not a lot of fun if you're trying to come to Canada through Express Entry, right? Now what happened is IRCC then went on an Express Entry spree, right? So you can see here they did a draw on the 19th. It was an all-program draw inviting 3,200 people to apply with a very large lowest rank, minimum score requirement of 531, right? That's a very high score requirement for an all-program draw, largely because they hadn't done a draw in a long time, right? So that's what happens when they don't do draws, then the pool continues to pile up and it's harder and harder and the score requirement goes up. Now the day after that, on September the 20th, IRCC did what I think was their first transport occupation draw, right? So they invited 1,000 people to apply, all through the transport industry, right? And for those of you who are interested, I can pull that up and we can quickly review what, where are they? Here, category based, because now I'm kind of curious off the top of my head. So for transport, let me send you guys this link as well in the comments so that you have it. But just in case you want to follow along with me as well, I'll stick it right there. So for this first transport draw, this is for people who within the last 3 years have at least 6 months of full-time continuous work experience in one of these knock codes, right? So we can see here there are 10 different occupations, right? The way Canada picks their different kind of occupations is through using what they call knock codes, right? Which is a 5-digit number. So you can see here there's 10 different knock codes: managers in transportation, railway car person, aircraft mechanics, deck officers, etc., right? So they basically invited 1,000 people to apply who fall under these requirements, right? They have 6 months of experience within the last 3 years in one of these occupations. So good news, I guess, if you're in transport, right? Because if they continue to do draws like that, then not a bad thing, right? Not a bad sign. So anyways, we will keep our eye on that and see if that kind of pattern continues, so to speak. Now, what happened after that? A week later, so this past week, we've had 3 draws, right? So again, on September the 26th, they started with an all-program draw, inviting 3,000 people to apply with a minimum score requirement of 504, right? So this definitely came down a good chunk from the week before. The problem is 504 is still a pretty tough score to have, right? I'm sure there's a few of you watching right now that are in the express entry pool that maybe wish that you had a 504 because it's a tough score to get. Now the day after, September 27th, this would have been Wednesday? They did another French language proficiency draw. So they invited 500 people to apply. These are people who had a minimum language exam score in French, right? Because in express entry, you can write the English or the French language exam. And IRCC has said that they want to be inviting more French speakers. So they invited 500 people to apply on Wednesday. Yesterday, on Thursday, I think this was the first agricultural draw. Let me double check. Yeah, it looks like it's the first agriculture and agri-food occupations draw, where they invited 600 people to apply, minimum score requirement of 354. But as we can see, if we go to this screen here, if you go to the agricultural stream, very similar in the sense that it's 6 years of work experience, 6 months, of work experience within the past 3 years, and it has to be through one of these 3 knock codes, right? So you can see contractors and supervisors, landscaping, ground maintenance, and blah, 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 agriculture service contractors and farm supervisors, and butchers, right? So in this case, it is just 3 knock codes that they're targeting for these industry-specific draws for agriculture. Jeffron says hello. Hey, Jeffron, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. So just a quick summary, right? We can see IRCC did these 5 draws in the last 9 days. And so what does this mean? I mean, that's the ultimate question, right? What does this mean? I mean, well, 2 things. If you got invited, congrats, right? That's a great thing. If you didn't get invited, I don't really know what it means. I don't know why they randomly had a 1-month delay. And now all of a sudden, maybe there was just like a system, something needed to be updated. So they skipped a draw, and that's why they did 5 draws within 9 days. I don't know, right? As with most of these things, we don't get much information from IRCC, right? Unfortunately. So maybe they've just done these 5 draws to make up for the fact that there was such a big gap between these. I don't know. we'll have to wait and see what the pattern looks like moving forward in the future. But good news that they're back to the draws. They're using the different industry-specific ones, so seems to be as intended. Sarah asks, does the no program specified class contain the applications coming from the provincial applications too? Yeah, so Sarah, so if no program selected, it basically just means everybody who's in the pool, right? You might be in the pool as a French speaker, you might be in the pool and also have a PNP nomination, you know what I mean? But the key is, you want to make sure, obviously, that you have your express entry profile created, right? Because you could still go get a you could submit a PNP application, but not have your profile in the express entry pool, right? Oh, excuse me. Which would be a big mistake, right? But yes, no program specified just means out of everybody that's in the express entry pool, everybody who has a score above this, right? At or above that. All right. So those are kind of the basics that I wanted to cover with regards to express entry. A lot happened, right? The 5 draws in 9 days. Nothing too surprising. It seems like IRCC definitely getting comfortable with these industry-specific draws, which is probably a good thing. That's why they created them to begin with. So anyways, let's use that sip of water as a segue into our next topic. Sarap says, thank you. My pleasure, Sarap. We are going to talk about a recent article that was published by IRCC. I posted about this, hold on, wrong way. There we go. I posted about this on LinkedIn this week, so I'm going to put the link in the description here in just a second. But IRCC released a report, an algorithmic impact assessment, which basically, here I'll put the link to this in the comments if anybody wants to follow along, and I'll also put a link to my LinkedIn post, because basically this is a report that goes into detail on how IRCC is planning to use like AI and automation to automatically start processing certain types of applications, right? Like as you'll see if you want to read the document. I mean, it's not a short read. It's not the longest read in the world, but you can see here, like, it's a 14-page document. There's a bunch of yes-no questions, all that kind of stuff. But in short, and why I made this LinkedIn post was to kind of summarize some of the key information and some of the most important, lines that I thought were interesting. So basically, in short, IRCC is going to start using more tech and AI to automate the initial processing of low-risk applications. For example, what they're doing in this case is, I believe, PGWPs and Inside Canada Work Permits or extensions. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, PGWP and other in-Canada Work Permit applications. Now, the reason for this is because typically these are lower risk, high approval rating type applications, and IRCC is clearly not the fastest moving entity in the world, and so they're trying to their credit, leverage AI and technology to improve their processing so that they can process these applications quicker and maybe use the human elements, the human resources in other ways. You know what I mean? So just a couple quick quotes from, what I pulled out. Officers make the final decision on all applications, right? So they are not using AI to make final decisions on applications. They're basically using it to kind of triage applications, right? So for example, you submit a PGWP application, and all the data will get reviewed by whatever, AI, the IRCC bot, whatever. And then based on the answers, it will triage it to a particular tier, right? So for example, it could be, oh, this is a low-risk application. Looks like it'll probably be a quick approval, so we're going to send it into column A. Or, hey, we see some red flags. This looks like it could be risky, could be sketchy, so we're going to put it to column B, right? I'm not saying there's only 2 tiers. I don't know what the tiers are. It just says that there are different tiers based on the level of complexity. But I do think it makes sense, excuse me, to start using tech and AI, pardon pardon me. I do think it makes sense to start using technology in this way, even just to save a few minutes time, right? Or to put them into different tiers so that officers can work a little bit more efficiently. Adriana says, good morning, I finally made it. Thanks, Adriana. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in live. We did cover express entry already. I'll also note that a recording of this will stay live on LinkedIn afterwards. So if you came in late and you wanted to see the beginning or different parts of the show, and then I'll also be posting the recording on YouTube as well. So make sure that you're subscribed to the Visto YouTube channel. Anyways, let's get back into it. No artificial intelligence or machine learning was used to build these tools. They rely entirely on rules created by IRCC staff based on program eligibility and admissibility criteria. So I think this is, I don't know, maybe obvious, but I think important to highlight, right? So they're using AI and technology to process applications, but it's all based on rules and systems relating to the IRCC rules and regs, right? So they have a set of rules, a set of requirements based on IRCC rules, and the machines, or whatever you want to call them, the AI, the technology, is decision making based on those rules and regulations that we already have in place, which I think is a good thing, right? We don't want AI to have absolute rule over these decisions with no guidance from the actual rules and regulations that we as immigration professionals and or our clients and or aspiring immigrants are relying on, right? Okay, before they are introduced and at regular intervals, rules are reviewed by experienced officers, legal, policy, and data science experts, as well as blah-blah-blah, to make sure that they are logical, understandable, non-discriminatory, and aligned with established eligibility criteria. So it seems like IRCC is taking a pretty proactive approach to make sure that they're preparing rules and regulations that will be guiding this technology, that they're having people from different parts of their organization, right? People from legal, people from policy, data science experts are all kind of reviewing in an ongoing basis to make sure that the rules make sense and that they're being followed, etc., etc. So this sounds like a good thing, and so far I'm kind of liking their approach. The rules may not be disclosed to the public to safeguard the integrity of the immigration system. Now this part I find kind of interesting. I kind of understand it, but I mean the IRCC rules and regs are all public, right? So for example, if you're applying for a PGWP, then you can just go on the Canada.ca website, and you can look up the official rules for applying for a post-grad work permit, right? The question here is, how is the AI making decisions about different things, right? What is considered a convincing enough application that it should be given an approval versus not, right? Now this part kind of makes sense to me, because if you made the decision-making tree of the AI public, then everyone would just game the system, right? So for example, for a post-grad work permit, you're filling out a form, right? The main application form is, I think, 5710 is the work permit from IMM 5710 from inside Canada. If IRCC posted, hey, if you answer no to question 8, then you're going to be triaged to the fast processing track, right? Then everybody would just too many people don't answer honestly, right? So too many people would just go, oh, I'm going to answer no to question 8 so that I can skip the line, right? You know what I mean? So I think this makes sense. I don't know if there's like a happy medium, because like how can we trust the decision-making tree if we can't see it? But then on the other hand, if we can see the decision-making tree, then are some people going to try and take advantage of it? Probably. So I can understand where this is coming from. It might stem some, interesting conversations and or challenges down the road, especially as these applications start to be processed and maybe some of them get rejected and some of them get JR'd, right? Judicial reviewed, which means if some people appeal it in court. So that'll be interesting. Anyways, the quality of client data is assessed for missing values, incompleteness, outdatedness, inconsistencies, trustworthiness and other issues, right? So some of this is pretty clear to me, right? Missing values. Okay, the AI can spot when somebody's left something out, or, same with incompleteness, same with outdatedness, same with inconsistencies, right? If things aren't lining up. But what does trustworthiness mean, right? Like how does AI determine what type of person or what type of answers are trustworthy or not? I don't know, right? I'm maybe not well versed enough in this topic of conversation. But anyways, certainly interesting. I think it sounds to me like a pretty good first application. I think they're picking the right kinds of applications to apply them to, right? PGWPs and work permit extensions and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see how it plays out. I mean, ultimately, especially with high approval rating applications, if they can drastically bring down the processing times, I think one thing people might not realize is not only will it make it faster for people applying for those visas, but it means that there's more human resources to apply in other areas, right? So now if IRCC can handle all of their PGWPs with 10 staff instead of 20, they can take those 10 staff, the extra 10 staff, and stick them on TRVs or study permits, or, you know what I mean? Like other areas that are heavily backlogged and slow and whatever. So anyways, seems like a good step in the right direction. I'll be curious to hear what people think about it, especially the lawyers that spend a lot of time thinking about tech and AI and doing judicial reviews, right? Like, is this going to be cause for concern, depending on how it performs? I don't know, but only time will tell. Or if you are one of those folks, or you do have some thoughts, feel free to throw them in the chat. Now I'm going to take my patented sip of water as we segue into the next topic. Okay, next topic. Oh, this is a big one. Folks, we've had a lot of drama over the last couple weeks. I've been following this one link on the Economic Times, economictimes.indiatimes.com, whatever that means, where basically they're kind of live updating, the situation, shall we call it, between Canada and India. Now, I'm going to give a super basic update, and then I'm probably just going to link you to this article, because as most of you know, I report on immigration. I am not a political expert. I am not a fan of politics. I try not to weave any of my politics into this show, right? I try to remain pretty factual, especially when I'm talking about immigration. So I don't want to open up the floodgates here to an economic argument or taking of stances, right? My understanding from the information that I've been provided is that there was a dude, and I'm going to just overly simplify this. There was a dude who was born in India. There was some political, and like terrorist-related stuff going on. The dude moved to Canada. He became a Canadian citizen. Some people were not happy with his political affiliations and blah, blah, blah. And so he was killed in Canada, right, a few weeks ago. Apparently, Canada has proof that it was the Indian government or related to the Indian government who had something to do with the killing of this man who was in Canada and a Canadian citizen. So Prime Minister Trudeau called out, or apparently, again, you'll read all these details in these articles and stuff like that. Canada tried to discuss this privately with India and India's government and say, hey, what the heck happened here? We don't, can we figure this out? Blah, blah, blah. And India kind of denied it and said, oh, we don't know what you're talking about, or we don't have anything to do with it. But then Canada received pretty damning evidence that connected the murder of this Canadian man in Canada to the Indian government or authorities or whatever you want to call it. So that's what led to Prime Minister Trudeau ultimately calling out using what's coined here, credible allegations of Indian involvement in the assassination, right? So basically saying, hey, you people murdered a Canadian in Canada. We have a problem with this, right? Now, I don't know all the political background between why India wanted to kill this guy, what's wrong with this guy, what isn't wrong with this guy. I don't know, right? I think the key factor, in my opinion, is if there is actual proof that the Indian government assassinated this guy and they're kind of not owning up to it, that's disappointing, right? Again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes and what implications these could have, but I will tell you one thing in terms of implications, that India has stopped issuing visas to Canadians, right? And Canada has not done the same, right? So for example, and this is an article that was forwarded to me by a good friend of the show, Sindhu, who it has some interesting information because India has suspended visa service for Canadians. Here are your top questions answered, right? So it goes into detail on, what does it affect? What type of Indian visa can I apply for and not? So this could be a really interesting, or I should say helpful resource if you're a Canadian thinking about traveling to India or, applying for Indian visas. You might want to keep that on hand. I don't want to go too much more into detail other than that. If anybody has thoughts or information, then I'm more than happy to read it in the chat and discuss it. The reason why I'm bringing this up on an immigration show is because India makes up a huge amount of the number of international students that come to Canada every year, the number of permanent residents that come to Canada every year, right? They make up a huge portion, I think in like the 40 to 50% range of all international students and permanent residents coming to Canada each year are of Indian descent, right? Or Indian nationals, whatever you want to call it. So having a rift between the two countries is not a good thing. I haven't been keeping fully up to date with it because, I don't know, I kind of just follow the news and all we can do is kind of wait and see what happens. A little bit disappointing if the facts are true that the Indian government was involved with the assassination, but they're not really owning up to it. And not only are they not kind of taking the, I don't want to say the blame, but I guess taking the blame for it, but they've also stopped issuing visas to Canadians, right? I mean, what did I do? I mean, I guess they're punishing the rest of us for the actions of our prime minister. But anyways, so all that is to say, this could have far-reaching or not many more reaching effects on immigration, right? Is Canada eventually going to do something similar to Indian nationals? Probably not, right? Because we rely so much on Indian nationals for the international student industry, permanent residence, stuff like that. But how long is this going to go on for? How long is India going to stop issuing visas to Canadians? How long will this rift remain between the two countries? I don't really know, right? But it's certainly, in my opinion, an important story to follow. Hence linking to those two resources that you have in the comments or below if you're watching this on YouTube. And I will be keeping an eye on it in the future as well. Any thoughts, any comments, feel free to throw them in. Otherwise, I will take another patented sip of water as we segue to our second last topic. All right. So as always, what I like to do on, near the end of the Visto show, give you an update from Visto, right? What's happening with the company, how we're doing, all that kind of stuff. For those of you who don't know, Visto is a Canadian immigration platform that helps Canadian immigration firms prep and file applications much faster with their clients, right? So one-click form filling, one-click merge and compress all your supporting documents, one-click generating custom documents with AI. We're adding in new features and all that kind of stuff every day. Now, the exciting part is that we've certainly come a long way in the last 6 months, and we are at a point where we're now hiring. And right now, we're actually hiring another a software developer. So I'll quickly share my screen here. Oh, wrong button. If you or somebody that you know is a senior software developer, I'm going to link to this in the comments. If you or someone that you know is a senior software developer looking for a new gig, maybe they're interested in or motivated by the immigration industry, they want to work with a cool company like ours, then definitely send this link their way. They do not have to be inside Canada. In fact, we'd almost prefer that they're not inside Canada, right? Ideally, similar-ish time zone. So like Central South America especially would be awesome if you know any, more senior software developers. The one thing I'll say here to kind of save everybody some time is what we're looking for is a developer with at least 4 to 5 years of experience in these technologies, right? So Node.js, React.js, TypeScript, Postgres, SQL, and Git. I don't know what any of these means, right? If you're a non-techie, I am just as confused as you are right now. But on behalf of Alex, and to save anybody time, right? If you don't have at least 4 to 5 years of experience with these technologies, you probably won't be invited to a subsequent round, right? So please just keep that in mind. But if you know anybody who might match it and is interested in working at a company like Visto, then please send us their way. Anyways, some other quick updates. We continue to automate more of the process as well. So we're adding in automated billing into Visto so you can send invoices, manage all that kind of stuff. There were actually 6 IRCC forms that were updated last week by Immigration Canada. Oh my God. And thanks to our tracking and monitoring capabilities, we were able to update them live on Visto within 1 business day. So we're continuing to, just make sure we always prioritize the clients so that you don't have to worry about filling out or finding new forms and can focus on your business. Heidi says you said open to people from Central or South America. Yes, Heidi, we would actually prefer somebody from Central or South America. So if you do have any remote, like we're fully remote, and so if you know of any senior developers, Central, South America, then feel free to send them our way, or just send them the link, right? And they can take it from there. So that's pretty much it, I believe. And I'll open the floor quickly to Q&A. If you have any thoughts, if you have any questions on anything we just talked about, I'll stick around for another few minutes. Feel free to throw the questions in the chat. What I'll say is, make sure if you like this show and you want to tune in every 2 weeks, right? I go live on LinkedIn every 2 weeks, and then I post the recording on YouTube. So either make sure that we're connected, or you're following me on LinkedIn, and or make sure you're subscribed to Visto on YouTube, and or the best thing you can do is sign up for the Visto email list, because every second Friday I send an email with immigration news, updates, and more information about the Visto show, so you never miss it, right? So I'm going to link to the Visto email list in the comments. I'm also going to plug my personal Substack. So what I've been doing is sending weekly updates, just myself as a tech co-founder in Canada, Canadian immigration lawyer, and I do a weekly update on, what my last week was like, what are the struggles, what are the ups, what are the downs, what are the fun stories from my life as a Canadian tech founder. So if you're interested in that, check out the link to my Substack in the comments or the description below if you're watching on YouTube. So without further ado, Heidi says, thank you, my pleasure, Heidi. That is going to be it for this episode of the Visto Show, September 29th. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Manisha says, I have 7 years experience as a developer, and this goes. So Manisha, check out the link, the Notion link that I put in the comments, and just follow the instructions to fill out the form. And Alex, he is our CTO. He will take care of you, right? I have nothing to do with the interview and hiring process on the tech side because I don't know how to write code, right? So Manisha, that'll all be through Alex. Just follow the link, and he will take care of you from there. Andrew says, thanks, Josh. Great show. Thank you, Andrew, for tuning in. Appreciate the support. If you did like the show, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure that we're connected on LinkedIn, and or if you're watching this on YouTube, please give the video a like and a subscribe. It really helps us grow. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Heidi says, thank you very much for this session, Josh. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Heidi. Same to you. Or if you're watching after the fact, have a great day, whatever the heck day it is. And I will see everybody in the next video. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great weekend, everybody.